Hey everybody, it's Edmund Vanderbilt with another episode of Once Around the Block. I'm here with the one, the only...
Joshua Cogan.
What you got in your mouth, buddy?
A blackberry.
A blackberry, where'd you get it?
Right here from this bush. Right here on my farm.
Okay.
Right here in Washington, D.C.
Exactly. So we're starting with that. We're on your farm in Washington, D.C. in your garden.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna finish back up here. Maybe we can
All right.
talk about it as we go.
Maybe.
All right.
Careful the bird netting.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna have to walk past the trash cans. We start in the alley.
All right, good. Right or left?
Let's go right.
Excellent.
Get the uphill out of the way.
Absolutely.
I get winded at the end of it, yeah.
Well, like I was telling you, we did the exorcist steps last time, and that's like, we were struggling for air after that.
Uh-huh.
But enough about that. How's it going, buddy?
It's good.
What's
Really good.
what's on your mind today?
What is on my mind today? That's actually a really good question. I'm having a little struggle. I've been struggling a little bit with the birds eating my blackberries.
Okay. So the farm.
It's appropriate.
The farm
yeah.
is on your mind.
Uh-huh.
What is the impetus, or what? How did you start this farm in the middle of DC?
So the farm was this kind of like, I lived in a group house in Mount Pleasant for a really long time. I really loved a lot of the aspects of kind of group living, but I was 35 and I really wanted to have something a little more grown up. But I also didn't want to kind of live in isolation. I saw a lot of people, they'd buy houses, they'd kind of move off, have the kids.
Right.
And there would be a great disconnect that would kind of come at that point. And I also was having this big urge to live in the country.
Yes.
And
All
so,
appealing things.
Yeah. But I liked urban living, so I was looking for that kind of beautiful hybrid of like kind of all the access you get with urban living and
Yep.
and also like a little more natural living. And so the farm was this kind of idea to be able to grow my own food, have more nature around me, become more self-sustainable. As an artist, I think having low overhead is freedom. It's
Yes.
always kind of been
Yeah,
one of my
sure.
big mantras. And it was also, I think growing your own food is like the first act of unplugging from kind of a larger system that can be harmful to around us. It can be very empowering, and it's empowering to neighbors, and it's empowering to self, and yeah, so that's the farm.
Yeah. And how much of that produces? How much of the food do you eat?
I'd say about half the food I eat during growing season.
Okay.
Yeah, so I get
So what's growing season? Spring to.
The first things I start eating early in the season are chive flowers. Those are actually the first things that show up.
Okay.
I
don't know
go
what
on
those
my
are.
eggs on chives. So as you would have chives,
Uh-huh.
they're actually in the onion and the allium family.
Okay.
And then you have kind of chives that go on top of. They have this big purple flower.
Okay.
So you can break that up and put it on your eggs in the morning.
Oh, nice.
And then your kales, greens, spinach, all that stuff will grow all winter.
All winter. Okay, so it keeps on giving even during the winter.
If you're here to maintain it, yeah, you can
Yeah.
have a cold frame in the winter.
Okay, cool. Josh, you are a
Photographer,
So that's-
anthropologist.
okay. I was gonna say, is it a clean
Farmer.
cut? I like it. I'm gonna shut up so I can
Yeah.
get all of those.
It's not a clean cut. I mean, I think increasingly all these things kind of come and fuse together in interesting ways.
Yeah.
And kind of staying open for that journey has been a process in itself.
Sure.
Because we do live in a world of definition, right?
Absolutely. I think perhaps we're transitioning out of specific definitions as things kind of blur all over the place. We're at a crossroads, quite literally.
We're literally at a crossroads.
So, point us in the right direction.
Let's, all right, choose one or two. I'm labeling each of my hands behind my back.
All right, 2.
How's that?
Really? Wow. That's funny. Instinct would have told me we were going that way.
Yeah, but instinct always makes me do the right hand first because I'm right-handed.
Okay. I was like, oh, we're probably gonna go down this way. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
A fork in the road. What were we talking about? Okay, yeah, lots of different labels, and that's kind of, I'm an artist, but I do a bunch of different things, including, this sort of web series.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so you know this well.
Yeah, and they were very tough earlier on. I feel like when it was like, what do you do? Especially in DC, right? Like, well, I'm an artist, I do this and this.
Especially in DC.
I'm a designer.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, okay, whatever, dude. So interesting. We have multiple labels. Your anthropology or your anthropological background mixes in with your photography in a big way. Because
that was a dot.
it was not an of
Do
a,
you want to take the big loop so we can keep like a full
Sure,
block so you have
sure.
time?
yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of influences it very strongly. You know, I to be honest, you know, I was always more in love with culture than I was photography, but photography was a medium with which I could explore ideas and tell stories and share notions with other people.
Yeah.
You know, most of my work is around identity, self, origin stories, kind of notions of cultural value systems, and then what I end up doing is a lot of personal projects. So those can be like rooted around cultural shifting and change. But I also do a lot of, you know, I'm kind of a little bit of a photographer hire. I do a lot of sign work for NGOs and nonprofits.
Right. And when you're talking about a lot of cultural works, personal projects, are those here in the States? Are they a little bit everywhere?
They're everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I've traveled to 52 countries thus far.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I've traveled a lot, you know, covering everything from like the last magicians in northern India to the last Jews of southern India to on the east coast of Kenya, working with dhow makers, which is kind of traditional boat out there.
Okay.
To working with Ethiopian UN aid agencies, to everything.
My God.
But I also work here a lot here in the States.
Okay.
And work with local communities, you know. And I think actually in the second half of my career, it's been really interesting to kind of explore more locally.
Right.
You know.
Right. Sometimes it's right under your nose.
Well, actually, I'll give you a really good story about that. It's
Yeah.
like I was just doing some storytelling here in Ward 4, and we were talking a little bit earlier about kind of concepts of gentrification, community displacement, and all these things, and I was doing some storytelling there, about to reopen the Walter Reed site, which is right here in Ward 4.
Right.
You know, it's being redeveloped, but Walter Reed for over 100 years was an enormous part of the city's history and national history. And it meant a lot to the community around it. It was essentially an open bordered base.
Okay.
Right, so people from the neighborhood could go on and on.
Okay.
And it represented a lot historically as well to the community, right? Because the army was desegregated before the rest of the country was.
Okay.
And the army was desegregated at the end of World War II.
Yeah.
So, you know, at that point, white officers and black officers, even though I'm sure there was endemic racism in the system, were treated equally. So imagine if you were a kid kind of growing up there, experiencing racism, and going on the base and seeing a white officer salute a black officer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really powerful.
Pretty intense. Yeah.
And so I was kind of collecting some of these stories, and one of them I collected was from a lady named Carolivia Herron, who's an amazing woman. She's actually a storyteller, writer, historian based here in DC, longtime generational resident, lived here in this area since the 1960s, and had grown up in Northeast DC before that. And, you know, I was asking her, I was like, you know, I really like to kind of find stories that connect people to place.
Okay.
You know, so I'd really like to hear your stories. And she's like, well, you know, every Sunday before I go pick up my mom from church, I go to the National Battlefield Cemetery and I lay flowers there. I asked her, you know, what's the National Battlefield Cemetery? I actually never thought about that. I don't know if you know.
I don't even know where it is.
So if you're driving up Georgia Avenue, you've probably seen this place. It's kind of right by the Walter Reed base.
Okay.
And it's this house. It's a national park, and it's just north of the Walmart and the police station.
Okay.
And it's kind of this like really unique looking house, you know, almost like whatever that old stone house is in Georgetown.
Right.
It's that similar thing. It's this old kind of stone house. You know, it's like a thing, but I never stopped it.
Right.
Well, what are there are the Union soldiers that died defending this city in the Civil War.
Wow.
The only battle that took, the Battle of Fort Stevens, right, which is right up the road here.
Okay.
Half a mile.
Wow.
So Battle of Fort Stevens is when the city, Lincoln was there himself defending the city from the Confederate Army that had marched up, which was led by Jubal Early. One of the other people I interviewed in the project was Jubal Early's grandson, great-great-grandson.
Wow.
Of slaves on the slave line, right? Because Jubal Early was a slaveholder.
Okay.
Right? And the two fortresses that were in the battle are right here within a mile.
Wow.
Right? So every Sunday, Carolivia Herron goes down there and lays flowers at the graves of these soldiers that died defending freedom.
Right.
Like really connecting. And then there was this notion of like, oh, I don't just live on 14th Street or Georgia Avenue. Like this is sacred ground.
Right.
There was big history that happened here.
Yeah.
You know, and history that actually almost decided the fate of our nation.
Totally.
So that's when I talk about kind of history and place, and we talk about displacement and gentrification, I think there's the wound that comes from displacement. There's also the wound that comes from not being able to share stories.
Right, storytelling. All right, it's such a theme. It's obviously a theme for me right now. It's a theme in your life. It seems to be very important. So what can you articulate? And I'm just kind of curious. Like, can we articulate the importance of storytelling in a thought or in an idea? It's a tool to preserve historical significance, context.
You know, story can be used any ways, right? In the context that I'm talking about,
Right.
yeah, like the passing down of history and wisdom, right? But I would actually say that maybe that's the sweet piece, right? Because a lot of times, you know, you could be telling a story about the future. You could be telling a fictional story. You could be telling a made-up story.
Right.
You could be telling a biblical story.
Right.
So there's elements of it that are preservation of identity, but I think that the kind of the root of a story is one of the beautiful kind of creations of human culture to transfer wisdom.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's in some ways like a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down, right? And this is why we talk to people in general, and this is why we connect with people, and this is why we explore ideas or explore each other, because we're all kind of giving each other medicine.
Yes.
Right.
Can I run a thing by you?
Sure.
So do you know Scarface?
Yeah.
Okay. So Scarface is a hip hop artist, and he was complaining about the new generation that was putting out trash. And I think, you know, in this video they cut to Lil Yachty. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but here it's a very new. Okay.
I mean, a little bit.
A little bit. I
did take a photo of Fetty Wap a year ago.
I don't even know.
All
Who,
right, good.
you know what I'm saying?
Now it feels.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, the whole point is simply that there's a conflict between older generation and younger generation, where the older doesn't feel like the younger is respecting, and
Always.
and the younger is like, fuck, you know, F you, we're not the old school anymore, blah blah blah.
Right.
It's funny because it seems so important. Maybe when you grow older you realize the importance of storytelling, of wisdom, of.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the plumb line of that notion is, but I can tell you that's the same thing that I see in 10th generation totem pole carvers in Alaska, and I see with traditional puppet folklorists in India.
Yeah.
Right. There's always this sense of the youth wanting to change.
Right.
And adapt.
Right.
And then the older generation saying, no, this is how we do it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's the history of everything.
Well, and in part, there's that dynamic tension, right? And to a certain degree, I'm a preservationist and I'm a nostalgist, so I actually most of the work I talk about is we're really forgetting a lot of the lessons we learned. Right. Like a lot of this wisdom is being replaced by knowledge, right? The difference between kind of knowledge and wisdom, or information and wisdom, right? So we're constantly inundated with stuff, but we're not given a lot of wisdom anymore.
Sure.
And even our modalities for exchanging wisdom, like TED Talks, they're nice. I've done them, but sometimes they lack the deep resonance of real wisdom because they're not fully embodied.
How do they lose it? Or
I think there's this notion of kind of the sage on the stage, right?
Yeah,
so you get this kind of mic drop, really complex topics narrowed down to kind of simple, more simplistic notions.
Right.
And I think they're valuable. I mean, you look at someone like Brené Brown's talk on vulnerability, or these things that can bust open concepts to wide platforms. But to a certain degree, I think also something is lost a little bit, But I think it's a rapidly transitioning culture. So,
yeah. Jeez.
There I am, lost in heady topics again. It always happens.
Well, that's good, man. I had no idea what to expect on this talk, and it went in an interesting direction. I never thought I'd be mentioning Lil Yachty.
Do you want to walk around the second time to see if we get it right?
I feel no, this is perfect. Okay. I feel like a lot of my once around the blocks, it feels that way. It feels like we should walk twice, You almost get your rhythm. But this is also the beauty of it, is that it sort of just happens, Wow, okay. You got any big things coming up? Are you excited about a trip? Can you tell us what it's like to travel? I don't know.
What's it like to travel?
Okay, let me interrupt one more time. It sounds amazing. Okay. It sounds like, oh my God, this dude travels all over the world and does photography, and it's like a dream job.
Yeah.
Go.
It's a dream job.
Okay.
But you have to. There's always consequences to everything. Listen. My whole desire in life was to follow my curiosity.
Right.
curiosity, exploration, those are the things that really bring me alive.
Yes.
You know, newness, possibility, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing happens in the garden, right? Like the exploration of kind of growth and change and these type of things. But there also is a lot of like outward energy putting. There's a lot of the work I cover tends in many cases to be very, I call them slow burn crises.
Right.
Right, they're not, I don't cover war, I cover cultural loss and infectious disease and, you know, cultural devastation and generational trauma. And so when you're kind of doing all these things, you know, you're taking on a lot of that stuff yourself.
I was gonna say, it sounds really heavy.
It's heavy stuff. So, you know, there also has to be, you know, you're kind of going out in the world and you're flowering and you're growing and you're seeing, but there has to also be a lot of rooting and kind of integration that I think comes from it.
Let's walk right back into where we started, and I'm going to ask you, like I do this wow moment or words of wisdom at the end. I guess, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with, or?
What would I leave the audience with? Man, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we did Father's Day a few weeks ago with my dad, and I asked everyone for their best piece of wisdom they got for their dad, and I remember mine at that time, which was stumble forward.
Excellent.
Which is like, you don't worry about getting anywhere big, anywhere quick. Just try to, you know, you're going to make mistakes and trip and fall, and just kind of keep stepping ahead.
Sounds perfect. I wish I had heard that a little while back. Can you say bye to the folks at home?
I feel like I must have told you that at some point.
Maybe,
Bye to the folks at home.
maybe I didn't listen.
Oh,
See you next time, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye.